that's going to be gone in like 20 minutes. Arif stocks keep going on and on. So I'd rather spend the money on the socks.
Well,
Good investment.
Yes.
I'm
They're
glad everyone's
very
having
delicious.
fun. We're back here with my mastermind, let's say, team, but our mentor, our teacher, last week I had a conversation with Bob, just blew my top. So I want him to start out, introduce himself. What do you do? And then I have some really important questions. Sir, welcome to Camel Care Blue Zone Community Program. It's an honor to have you. Thank you for giving us today.
Good morning, and thank you very much for having me. I really do appreciate it. It's great to be with you guys and like-minded people. As Arif has probably already told you, he and I go back to about 2019, 2020, just prior to COVID. And that's when we started our conversations. And he caught my attention right out of the box with his energy and enthusiasm and his passion just to help other people. And that was obvious, evident right from the very, very beginning. But my background really has been mostly working for private investors over the last 30 years. A good portion of my career, I spent turning around distressed real estate assets and underperforming companies for the private investors. So that afforded me some great opportunities basically to figure out why a lot of companies failed and why other ones thrived. And we were talking, Arif and I were talking the other day, and the conversation came up. And you know, over the years, I've been really lucky and fortunate. I have a great team around me, and the team and I have come up with essentially a blueprint. And the blueprint is actually how to grow any company, turn around any company, and it's very consistent. It doesn't matter how large or small the company is, if it's an early stage venture or it's a mature company, family owned, mom and pop for 50 years. This blueprint works. But I told them one of the intangibles that I found over the last 30 years was that the company will never ever outgrow the capacity of the owner. And that I think all professional growth is intertwined with the personal development. And so only as people grow will the company grow. And I think that's where we started. So, I mean, I'd love to just answer questions and see if I can help you guys. I have a ton of experience in real estate, for mergers and acquisitions, business development. I worked on a lot of the CMBS stuff. I've done every single asset class there is in the industry. So I'll just leave it
Well,
to you guys, and you guys give me a little direction, and that would be great.
no, sir, I got lots of questions and I planned them out, and I want to start out with the first step to success. Would you say you through your journey you started somewhere, you got passionate about it, you got really really good at it, and yesterday or the other day you told me in a conversation, if a CEO is not willing to go grow, I wouldn't work with them. Why is that personal growth so important in success journey, sir? Bob, are we here? Yes.
You definitely muted.
Please do unmute yourself and tell us, why is it personal development so important in getting to higher echelons of life?
You know, what happens is, and you probably see this when you look at a lot of early stage companies, these young guys are brilliant and they're visionaries. They come up with extraordinary solutions for very difficult problems. And they are able to start a company and grow the company exponentially. But then all of a sudden they outgrow the company outgrows them. And a lot of times you'll see entrepreneurs or small business owners eventually um, move aside and allow someone with industry experience. If you're a 20, $30 million a year company and you want to continue to grow, it's probably better to find a CEO or another company that is doing $100 million a year and that type of experience. So that grows. But as I was saying earlier, that the company will never outgrow the capacity of the owner. And it's really a humbling experience when you are the owner and you're independent and you love what you're doing. And all of a sudden, you reach a point where you plateau. And, you know, in the United States, I think 98% of all businesses kind of top out around $2.5 to $3 million a year in annual revenue. And that's really because that's where they can grow without growing personally. So I just think that the personal development is huge. It's just being humble enough to go get coaches, read more books, take classes. There's a lot of great business programs online. So I really, really think that it's the personal growth that allows the company to continue growing.
I have a question about the management of time. What's the difference between a $250,000 a year person and $25 million person? $25 million a year person. I mean, what's the difference? We all have 24 hours, Bob. How do rich people manage their time, sir? What do they spend on?
You know what? I mean, I guess the rule, and again, this is just my experience, but if you can get someone to spend 95% of their time doing 5% of the stuff that they love to do, the passionate part, I really, really feel like, in my experience, I've seen that's where it's been best. A lot of times people get caught up and they think that entrepreneurs are always wearing every hat, right? And you have to grow. So there's a a 4 or 5 step program that allows you to do that. But that's as you grow personally and professionally, that now you can grow, to another level. And then you keep adding more and more personnel, people, but you're essentially aligning your time to do it. So if you can get, like, I have a lot of clients that are small. If I can get them in the first wave to do the main thing 60% of the time, then we're golden. Because then we'll go 80-20, and then we'll work to 95-5.
Wow. So the main cause of business failure is actually time management, maybe by the CEO. I've had this plateau myself. That's why I reached out to you before COVID-19, and now we're on a rise. So I wanted to reach out to you because if I would be able to negotiate previously a $25,000, $250,000 contract, now I'm talking about $1 million contract. Does that require a different mindset, Bob, to be able to confidently talk to your buyers, investors, people who are in front of you?
No, absolutely. There's a lot of great points in that, Arif, but you have to, it's interesting because when you start the company, it's because you're really, really good at something, right? You're really good at one specific area, and it seems like that's the area you're going to, but you're not good in all the other areas. Maybe it's marketing, maybe it's operations, maybe it's culture, right? I also find something that's absolutely huge is just like a genetic code. I know there's been a lot of conversation about value propositions and values and core values. Now, honestly, there's a lot of companies, they'll pay us $100,000 to come up with core values and mission statements and value propositions. And they'll take all of that information and they'll put it on their jersey, their shirts, they put it on their hats, they put it on the website, and then that's where it goes. That's where it ends. But what they need to do is embed all that core values. That's the genetic code. You take that and you incorporate that into your business model, and then it influences, it shapes, it validates, and influences every component of your business. So you show you can do it yourself, but there's only about 7 or 8% of companies out there that really grow substantially, profitably, scalable, and marketable on a regular basis. And it doesn't have to be really big, but you have to understand that once you put that genetic code in there and it's shaping everything on a regular basis, then you're going to find that that's where you grow exponentially. The culture is there. Everybody's doing it. It's not just you anymore running the business. It's the culture. They believe it. Like you're the leader, you set the standard, what's tolerable. And then you continue to grow from there. And what do they say? High tide raises all ships. Well, that's how companies grow.
Part of growing mentally and as a person is actually also giving up control, or delegating, if you will. I have this tendency to do everything myself because I thought I'm going to do the best. I learned painfully that I have to delegate, and delegation requires trust. How do you find a trustworthy team? You have teams across US you work with, or across the world. How do you find that niche to trust people, Bob?
Listen, in my experience, really what it comes down to is people and processes, right? If you're going to delegate a responsibility to someone, you are going to teach them not just what to do, but my opinion is what I try to always do is try to teach people how I'm thinking. and how I'm looking at something. So it's my perspective, so that they don't have to do exactly like me, but just take what I'm sharing with them and then use their own brain and their own filter system, and then they can make decisions. But you don't have to, that's you as a leader. You have to really let go of it. And it's not, if you're the only person that can do it, you'll never ever grow. So you have to be willing to train, which means you have to grow as a leader, right? You have to grow as a leader to be able to train and educate your people that you're delegating the responsibility to. And then only then does it really, you start to see them flourish. They may be 10 times better than you are at that particular area, whatever responsibility. But you don't know, because you have to empower them, let them run with it. You teach them, like, I'm big on culture. So I love to see, this is what we do, this is what we stand for, this is how I look at it. And I don't, the semantics of it and the math of whether it's real estate or it's a business turnaround, it doesn't really matter. Those are like mechanical things. But it's the mindset, it's the people thinking, and it's people in process. If someone gets screwed up, if you delegate a responsibility, it gets screwed up. Show me the process. Show me the procedure that you have in place. Show me the training that the person gave, that you gave them, right? And then you do that. You invest in it. You can look at it. It's not me telling you this. You can look it up publicly, all publicly traded companies, but you can see the companies that invest in their employees financially. I don't care if it's $15,000 a year per employee or $50,000 a year an employee. When you invest in your employees, those are the people that excel. Those are the companies that excel.
Thank you. Wow, that was really cool insight. So, by the nature of what I'm involved, I have actually put some of this advice that you've given me previously into my own business, allowing me to build trust in, let's say, Mongolia, with great people that I can, send them, let's say, a $50,000 in the bank, and I don't have to worry about if they're responsible or not. So building trust has been the hardest part, but we found the right key people. Next step is processes in real estate, in anything else, in team building. What's the process, Bob? How do we surround yourself with better people than yourself? I just love hanging out with you. Every time I have a conversation, I learn a ton of things.
Well,
Thank you.
know,
How do I get the attention of people like Bob? Tell me that. Answer that. Like, how do you get the attention of higher achievers?
It's interesting, but when you really, because you're throwing a couple of different things at me.
Yeah.
I really think that the growing part and finding people to do different things, but it begins with, when I talked about the genetic code, it's when people realize, that what you're doing, what you stand for. Like, when I meet any company, it doesn't matter if it's real estate or business, there are usually three questions I ask them, so that they come up with a fourth one. But the first one is, who are you? What do you do? And how do you do it better than anybody else? And I know it seems really, really simple, but it's not as easy as that, right? And so then I basically I want to know why I should do business with that person versus their competitor. And when they start thinking like that, they start thinking a lot more profoundly. And then that's where you end up finding good people that get it. When you have a purpose that's bigger than you, and I'm not, I know that gets overused, but if you really truly feel it, there's a lot of privately held companies that most people have never heard of, that they've been around 35, 40 years, and they're the market leader. And I happen to have one in my backyard here, and it's a food market company. But it's a food market company, and they've been around for, 75, 80 years. But just give you an example. They're a small food market company with about 105 locations, but they are the market leader. Now, if you went on CNBC, if you look at the business things, you're going to see Whole Foods and Fresh Market and Amazon. You're going to find all these other food market companies, all these really big companies that are literally 15 to 20 times the size of them. But I've been all over the country looking and working with some of these people, and they're saying, well, what is Wegmans doing? Wegmans Food Market, what do they do? And then they come in and they send people into the store and they look around and they see the colors and they see the lighting and they think this is really, really cool. And it's a great experience for them, right? But they forget, they miss the most important component, and that's that genetic code that they instill in every single employee that carries on their message every single day. It becomes like a cult.
I love
And
it. It's a
No, go ahead.
philosophy of business, right? It's a
Yeah,
philosophy. They create a culture, if you will.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
then growing is growing. I mean, you need to grow, and you need to get, you know what, I know that the expression, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's huge.
Mm,
Like when you're talking about trust, right? But if you're
yeah.
putting the culture in place, and you have the processes and the systems in place, and then you're picking good people. Now, when you're trying to find, people, I would spend more time worrying about the character than I would about their specific skills. You can always teach,
Mm,
right? But you can't teach someone to be a good person.
absolutely. So we dug deep into that field of psychology. Again, I want to remind everybody that this book actually was a result of that conversation with Bob and psychology of how people think. Now, new 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 money, new currency is actually retention, to hold attention in place and to be able to focus on one thing. How do you focus on project for a long period of time, Bob, if you don't get a result, let's say in 1 month, 3 months, 6 months? How do you stay focused on a vision that nobody can see?
So, first of all, that's the definition of being an entrepreneur, right? I
Hmm.
mean, being a business owner, you make decisions with, you know, not exactly perfect data, but
Hmm.
you know, think about in the real estate space. Well, you know what? Two things. I want to say that it's the vision. Your vision's probably not, or your goals probably are not big enough. Because if you set a goal, like for example, every October, I sit down with all our companies and we do what's called long range planning. And we sit down in October and we review the current year. We think about what we want to do in the following year and maybe 2 years out past that in that long range planning. And we keep updating it. But the point is, when you're going through the long range planning and you set a goal, and I cannot tell you, it doesn't matter if you're publicly traded and you're doing $1 billion in revenue or you're $1 million in revenue. It doesn't really matter. You have to have a goal big enough that inspires you and draws you to go do it, because there's always work to do. Most of these companies really, they'll set their goals or standards at like 10, 11% growth year over year. And then you know
Hmm.
what? That's not inspiring enough. That's the economy could drive that number and you don't have to do anything. So the economy is either the ebb and flow of it and you go up and down with it. But if you really have a goal, like if someone's at $1 million with me and they come in and say, well, I'm doing about $1 million in revenue. And I said, where do you want to go? I want to, be 1.3 million, 1.4 million. That's not big enough. You need to go for 3, 4, 5. Honestly, you shoot for $10 million, because the big cap, the ceiling is always the 3, $4 million range. You want to shoot for 10 million, because now then all of a sudden you reverse engineer it. What do I need to do in order to get to $10 million in revenue? And then you
Hmm.
reverse engineer the numbers, come up and say, I need 4 sales every week. I need 4 sales a day. It doesn't matter what it is. But in order to get the 4 sales, I mean, I have to make, 25 phone calls.
Hmm.
So you need a goal or aspiration a lot bigger than just, 10% growth.
You talked about a reverse engineering, and that's really what I'm trying to teach in this whole Camel Care Blue Zone community. Again, health and wellness, organization. You just taught me so much about organization, about uh, higher achievers in organization, and some create cultures and some just stagnate and let anybody walk in and out the door, and the economy just moves it forward. But the people or the companies with vision, mission, bigger, they attract higher class of people. Am I correct, Bob, in assuming
Absolutely.
that vision is
No,
attractive?
absolutely. Because you have real estate guys on here, so they already know this. But I've been on the other side of the table when people are trying to raise capital, and I've never ever seen a pitch deck that was terrible. Every single pitch deck I've ever looked at has been amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the best investment since sliced bread. Everybody's got the best deal. But at the end of the day, you have to, like when I'm underwriting a deal, I understand what I'm looking at, and I'll do my own underwriting, but I understand what's probably likely going to happen. And listen, we know that more often than not, things are going to go wrong, things are going to get sideways. So if I'm going to do a deal with Arif, I have to like Arif going in. And I'm really investing and betting on Arif's ability to execute the strategy that he's putting in front of us. If he's looking for $10 million or $12 million, I'm betting on him. It's not necessarily the plan. I'm betting on Arif's ability to be able to do that.
So
And that's
this,
so, investments are never really made on a specific deal. Yeah, the numbers all look good and everything's good, but the people behind it, do they have the ability to execute on that strategy successfully? And if the deal
regardless,
does go sideways, just let me just add this. If the deal does ever go sideways, I want a person that I can sit and have a conversation, do a workout with. I don't want to
mm,
get into a deal, right, where if there's tension in the beginning when we're trying to come to the terms on this $10 million investment, if there's tension already, then it's never going to work when the deal gets sideways.
so I did put all of this teaching of yours into practice with two candidates over the last week that I haven't even told you about.
Okay.
The conversations are a little bit different when you're talking about people who are doers or people who are, let's say, procrastinators. The higher achievers of business I found very fast movers. They do it. I was talking to a gentleman in England and he says, okay, we got this office in, let's say, High Tower in Riyadh, and I have the two kingdoms. We're merging Saudi and the kingdom of UK, if you will, in a business merger that has many facets. Now, I would never be able to impart in that conversation if it wasn't because of conversations we've had over the years, Bob. How important are the people around you? Like the people you surround yourself really determine the destiny that we go through, isn't it?
Yeah. And in real estate in particular, it's a team sport. And,
Mm.
there are people that'll tell you that, oh yeah, I'm self-made. I did this, I did that. It's a team sport. You just need it. I've worked with some of the largest family offices in the United States, matter of fact, and even in Saudi and Asia. And when you have big entities coming together and doing some projects that are 400 or $500 million, it's everybody has to leave their ego at the door, but they all bring a
Mm.
specific skill set to the game. You know, my client, here in the US has a certain skill set. The guys coming in from Saudi have their, and the group from Asia, they have theirs, but it all collectively works out exceptionally well because you're doing something with a purpose and a goal, very common goal in mind. But you have to be, you know, listen, you can't make a good deal with a bad person, right?
That's a
So
great one. I have another question about reverse engineering. Now, we're putting this reverse engineering, of course, under your guidance with these guys from Saudi and from UK. What does reverse engineering for life looks like? Like if I was 85-year-olds, I was sitting down having this conversation, Bob would be 95. Can we reverse engineer something like that, Bob, like into your own personal life that you do in business? Or is it all
yeah,
just one?
no, that's a great question, boy. And I have three daughters, okay, um, and what I do is, and I share this with them, not just my clients, but even my daughters. I've told them, I said, think about what you want your life to be in 10 years.
Mm.
If you can really write it down on a piece of paper. Say, this is how I like my life. I want to be married, have two or three children. I want to, have them in a good school system. I want to have certain hobbies, but just think about what it is you want your life to be 10 years from now, 5 years, whatever the number is. And then that's how I would say reverse engineer, because the decisions you make today with that 10-year visual in your mind is going to help you make decisions today. All of a sudden, you're going to realize that you're already there.
Mm. Wow, unbelievable wisdom share. This has been the most impactful conversation of 2025. Thank you, sir. I want to see if anybody has any questions, but I have some questions. Again, more questions for Robert, Bob. Thank you for giving us your time. I hope that people take this and really review it. It's a mindset that goes along with success. And that mindset starts with a person, and that person is me. Is it, Bob? It starts with me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, if you want to have a good partner in business, you need to be a good partner. You
Mm.
want a good partner as a wife or a husband. Yeah, you need to make yourself good. So it's always working on yourself. The
How do I?
self-improvement. I mean, this one of my clients told me a long time, he was 82 years old when I met him. And was an absolute rock star, and I wish I knew him when he was in his 40s and 50s. But he was saying that like personal development is a product without a deadline. It's something that you work on your entire life. You're continually growing. You're continually being the best version of yourself as you go on.
Wow, some of the habits that go along with personal development. So can you give us like top three things that it has to be non-negotiable? Like, is your physical fitness, is reading one of them? What is top three on Bob's mind that I need to do every day?
You know, it's probably different for everybody, right? But I'm a big, ritual person. I mean, I believe that if you have the discipline, like when you talk about fitness and you want to get in shape, what do you got to do? You have to go to the gym, exercise regularly, you got to eat right and get plenty of sleep. It sounds simple, it's just not easy, right? So, I have, there are certain clients, to be honest with you, that my non-negotiable for one of them in particular, in the building I'm standing in, the facility I'm here now. He's lost $7 or $8 million over the last few years. And I said, the only way I would take him on as a client is if he actually got a personal trainer and went to the gym every morning at 5:30. And he pushed back initially and he was like, why? But then his wife and his two sons told him that, no, I need to do that because I needed to see the discipline was there that he could do something he absolutely positively didn't want to do. And so when you do something, you take you out of yourself out of your comfort zone, and then you put it in your discomfort and you do it anyway, that drives you. That you take those little wins. But I think you need time to yourself. I think fitness is one thing because it's a delayed gratification. You're working out, working out, working out. When do you see the results? Right? It's a lifestyle. You don't need to go on a diet. You need to change your lifestyle. You need to eat more healthy. You need to get some exercise. You need to get plenty of sleep. And those
Let's
sound so
talk
simple,
about.
but
I
what's
have a
that?
question about financial health. I want to
Yeah.
talk bigly on financial health. When do you start investing or saving, or what's the path to financial success, sir? For the average Canadian American, where do we start?
Right now.
Register a business, or what? I tell all of my friends, register a business, but sometimes people just get too busy, chewed up in life. Where do people start to begin to at least educate themselves on financial matters?
So I think you need to save money, right? You need to earn money. You need to save it, and then you need to multiply it. And then for at least in my world, I've been able to do that with real estate. I've made decent money in the consulting and the turnarounds and all that, but it's really taking that money and putting it into real estate, and that's where it's multiplied for me. So I have my daughters, and one of my daughters is a 26-year-old teacher, but she's really, really good at saving her money, and she'll give me little blocks of money, and we invest it in real estate deals.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And there are today more millionaires being made in America and Canada. Again, there's a lot of
Mhm.
millionaires here. We are putting systems together to teach the average person how to separate themselves from the masses, because it's just the bottom is too crowded, isn't it, Bob? To be honest, like, just
It is.
tell me that it's too crowded.
No, you know what I mean? Again, it's on the personal growth. I mean, if you look in the mirror and you see where you are today, that's, it might not be very nice. You might not be happy with what you see, but at the end of the day, you just realize, okay, that's my starting point. And then you just take and you start investing in your personal development. And then that has, the personal development, let's say it's fitness or fitness, right? I mean, your the physical fitness where you're going to go work out, there's a huge piece. If you become better financially, then all of a sudden you're growing. And then, I think that, the personal development side on reading and, expanding your mind. I think there's just so much correlation between the personal development and professional growth that they're intertwined, and you can't separate them. There are people that become super wealthy in business, and then they're emotionally bankrupt. But that's because they just end up taking their narrow focus, but they just stopped growing, right? They knew how to do one thing really well. Maybe it was make money, maybe it was real estate deals. But I've had clients over the years where they were emotionally bankrupt. They didn't like their wife and kids, and their kids and wife didn't like them. That's
That's
sad,
the
but it's
sad.
true.
That's the sad end of being financially successful. But hopefully, we all grow. That's why I put on these program 90-day challenges and this book. Again, Bob, this was not um, published in the US or Canada, but in England. But I'm revising this, and this time the foreword. I would love to ask you to write a foreword to this new book that I'm writing, just absolutely creating miracles in my own lives, in the lives of our students and our community. Again, I come from humble backgrounds, but my family, again, you said something about your DNA, your inspirations, your environment, all of that's brought me here. And I want to use this opportunity to thank you so much for contributing and to this flag that's even today trying to make a change, at least for the Kurds who are in under the bombardments in Iran, Iraq, Turkey.
Mhm.
It's a great honor for me to be able to connect with people like Robert
Rob,
Amodie,
Rob, can
Bob.
I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Yes, you
Yeah.
can now is open to questions. Anybody one by one,
Yeah,
please.
of course.
Rob,
Please.
I'll tell you what it is. It's based on like what Arif was saying there about reverse engineering. I'm working with a company. It was set up by a Swiss billionaire, but he's based in London. He has reverse engineered company growth. How his company works, it's called Factor Y. He says that 99% of innovators, of startups, well, maybe 99% is a bit of an exaggeration, but an awful lot of them die on the vine because they don't have access to capital, they don't have access to expertise, they don't have expert to marketing, they don't have experts to professionals who know how to run a company and grow it, etc., etc. So his company, he set up a company, he said, listen, I have experience in doing this with many companies, a bit like yourself, Rob, experience in doing this with many companies. So he set up a really expert team worldwide. He said, what we'll do is we'll do it all for you. So they take the innovator or the inventor or whatever, Rob, say it was like Vic invented a cure for cancer. And they say, Vic, listen, you just work on that. You focus on that. You cure the cancer. We'll do all the rest to make it a worldwide business. So he's having a roughly 99, well, maybe not 99, maybe an exaggeration, but in the high 90s success rate with every company that he works with.
Wow, that's great.
He brings everything to the table, Rob, including the capital. So the inventor or the innovator doesn't even have to have the capital. They just have to have the idea. He does all the rest, and he's having a massive success. He's launched over, I think it's over 130 companies so far.
Wow.
And what he does, he builds them up very quickly, takes them to a hedge fund or a family offices, and sells within.
What's the question, Tony? Please,
what does Rob think? What do you think of that model, Rob? Taking yourself out of the picture and letting an expert team come in and do the job for you.
Oh, absolutely essential. Go back to your first piece, Tony, where you're talking about the failure rate of early startups. Like, for example, in some of my clients, we have a silo of money that we allocate for early stage ventures, and we invest early on the deals, but we know 99.7% of them are going to fail. And we know that little, 0.3 of a, maybe 50 basis points on it will actually get a win on those particular deals. So I think that, knowing that going in, that there's such a failure rate on that, it's key. So that the whole idea of getting yourself out of the way, because as the entrepreneur and as the person that can't raise capital, doesn't know marketing, doesn't know operations, they become the bottleneck. So yeah. I love the idea. We've literally, not in a mean way, in a negative way, but we've replaced the founders and CEOs of many companies over the last 25 years, and we give them, say, 15 or 20% equity in the deal, but it's if they stay out of the way.
He does the same. He says, listen, it's much better to have 20% equity in $100 million company as opposed to 100% equity in a a dead duck, you know.
He's
That's
100% right.
Yeah.
He's 100% right. That's good.
Yeah, I'll send it over to Vic what I've got, and he can send it to you.
I'm sorry.
Bob, can I ask a question? Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Next person with your question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah. Hi, Bob. Thanks. You shared a lot of golden nuggets. It's so refreshing to hear because it's a mantra that I resonate because, like you, I've done, deals with companies, but most importantly, I spent an absolute fortune on personal development because I think we all need very good mentors on all sides, not just business, but spiritual side as well. My question is, I'm working with a company which is using cutting edge strategies, protocols in the health arena. They basically have spent 12 million pounds already invested. And
Would you like to put your camera, Robert?
sorry.
Put
Can
your
you?
camera on if you like.
Is it on?
Go ahead.
Is it on?
Not now it may be.
Okay. Sorry about that. I'd muted myself.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, basically the question is, how do we scale up? Because at the moment we got investments from governments like the Nepal. We just got signed a contract for 50 million pounds per annum from the government to promote health and wellness in Nepal. Now, if you imagine that's just a small country, we want to replicate that model across the globe for best health protocols. So my
How long
question
have they
to
been
you is,
doing it? No,
sorry?
go ahead, Robert. No, go
Yeah.
ahead.
My question is, I've always had a big vision to reach a billion people, but I know to reach a billion people, you have to start with 1 million. So I'm in that process of putting an e-commerce community with all the specialists for different sectors, and that's in play at the moment. But how can we scale up to getting to 1 million of people of entrepreneurs who want to be partners basically with us? And my focus is health and wellness, because I say to everyone, doesn't matter how rich you are, how many billions you have, how many millions you have, but your health is your wealth. And that's my focus,
Absolutely.
is how do we try and encourage and invite entrepreneurs who see that the future, after being in COVID for so many years, where they use fear to manipulate the millions of people, is understanding the process of flow, which is in the fifth dimension, which means being fearless, being limitless, to optimize our wisdom, which is our God-given right. So all I'm looking for, like you mentioned a few things earlier to Arif about the processes, that's all in place. We just did a big event in Dubai, one of the biggest AI conferences on health and wellness. So we are attracting a lot of technologists who know that to scale up to millions and millions of people, you need systems. Do you feel that's the right strategy that I should be adopting?
I do. I mean, so far it seems like you're doing everything right. The only thing I would maybe add is your social media. Reaching out, because you're really trying to reach. I mean, social media can be bad, but it can be really, really good. And there's different strategies out there using it. But I think that if you're trying to reach 1 million people, and listen, health and wellness, getting it into young people's hands so that as they age, right, they become healthy. I always think with the knowledge, information that's out there today, the next generation should be a lot healthier and should live not just longer, but they should live healthier in those last 10, 15 years of their life. So I think that using social media in a couple different platforms would be huge. I think going to the conferences and attending the different events, incorporating AI into it, I think that would do it. But establishing communities, and to start with young people, just starting young people, you kind of inspire them to do whatever they're going to do, whether it's from a technology standpoint or, just truly focused on health and wellness. Starting with that small community and let that kind of build. But you'll see when things are purpose driven and you're reaching out and the message is consistent, I think that social media gives you that ability to scale very, very quickly, especially when you're talking about the numbers that you are.
Yeah, thanks for that, because that's a very good point you mentioned. We have actually created an app for this, and it's based on a loyalty brand and rewarding people for they get points for investing in their health, and these points convert to money. But yesterday I spoke to a CEO of a company based in Mexico, and he said that what we are missing from our platform is an NFT token, and he's a specialist on that, and he's also got the a debit card which is Visa backed, a crypto debit card that he's allowed.
Okay.
He said that we can use it to private label. So I now think that the combination of what you said with an app and also with the NFT and
Mhm.
and Visa card, I think that combination will help us to scale up even faster.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, and especially when you're talking NFTs and crypto, there's a new generation. Think about it. I have the perspective of old money. And there's a huge transfer of wealth, right? That's going from the older generation to the younger generations. And one of the big things that they've said in every study, and this was just maybe about a month ago, but the younger generations are essentially saying that they're not going to use the same financial advisor that their parents did. Now, remember that financial advisor, grew the portfolio from 3 billion to 5 billion or 6 billion. But those kids, the younger generation, they don't want anything to do with that type of financial. They want someone that can get them into crypto. They want something that's a little bit more spontaneous. It's almost, unfortunately, and we have to kind of hedge against this, but it's almost like gambling, right? Because they like that immediacy. They want to be able to look on their phone and see where they're at, their portfolio, and they can reallocate funds that quickly and timely. Well, that's not how wealth is built or sustained, I should say, right? My main role is always preserve the generational wealth, the next generation saying, I want more access to it. I want to be able to move it around a little bit. But to appeal to that group, like with the NFTs and the crypto, I think you're spot on. Social media, a great platform, a couple really good platforms I think you can use there.
Thank you for all of your questions,
Thank you.
Bob. It's been absolutely a revelation. Now I'm gonna do an assessment since everybody's asking the opinion on on their businesses. May I
No,
ask
that
your opinion on my business, sir?
absolutely, sir.
So as of last time that we spoke, I had a quick trip to China where we met with a partner from Saudi who's also a lawyer, but also a very avid and loves camel as much as we do. So he says that let's partner up and take this brand to the Middle East because they really love camel. They know about camel and it's admired. You're going to have a blowout. So I'm coming here, waiting out the time. And as I spoke to you, gentleman from UK again comes along and he says, I also love this energy and I'm building up the two kingdoms. So my headquarters in Saudi. So the goal is to have a factory in the Middle East, perhaps in Saudi within 2025 and 26, and then reach global audiences with this miracle socks and all apparels. Again, I am coming after this interview to come to see you in Syracuse, and I'm bringing a whole load for Victor, who's also waiting patiently here. Thank you. And what's your take on this? How do we get this to hands of feet of everyone around the world, sir? Franchising, teaching, courses online, all of the things that you mentioned we're trying to bring to the fort. What's missing here? Or are we on the right track?
No, you are on the right track. But remember, the bigger you scale, the more consistent the message needs to be. And so I would go back to the original three questions. Like, who are you?
Mm,
What do you do? What do you do for your customer? And how do you do it better than everybody else? You're in
yeah.
a very unique space, right? So you think about not as apparel, but maybe you're in the health and wellness space. But you need it, for example, I'll just give you it's a value, they're considered value statements. But I did some work with the Rochester or the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota.
Mm,
And So you're in the health and wellness space and you think, wow, these guys, are they really a business? Are they looking at it the same way that every other corporate entity or organization does? But
Mm.
they have this amazing think tank inside of that organization. And they came up with a value proposition that essentially says the needs of the patient come first. Now,
Mm.
at 7 words, you can't mess it up. You can twist those words around any way you want and look at it from any other perspective. But the needs of the patient come first. That means it doesn't matter who you are. You could be a master surgeon, or you could be an orderly. You could be anyone you want, and everybody understands the exact same value. When someone walks into one of their buildings, they know what they're going to get. The values, the core values, the mission, all of that is established. But once you really start answering those questions internally on a personal side, what is it? What can I do better than everybody else? What separates me? And when you do that, next thing you know, every single person you hire, every partner, every investor, everybody gets it. You're sharing the exact same message. And then that's how people grow successfully, because it takes on a life of its own. That's how
Yes.
cults begin. And I mean brand cults, not fad cults. I mean,
Oh, we don't mind. Well, I just love this conversation. Well, we're following the same plans, but again, finding your purpose in life, getting really good at what I do, again, the key I seen the growth that is blossomed because of this mentorship, because of having conversations with people like yourself. My last question, we're approaching 45 minutes of flawless conversation, and I hope everybody watches it twice, 3 times, 10 times. What's the importance of having a mentor, somebody to call up when you're down and depressed? We are human beings, we're not robots. What's the
yeah.
importance?
I mean, I'm similar to a few of the people already on this call, but I've invested in mentors my entire life, and I've been very, very fortunate. I've been blessed, with some great mentors. I think they're absolutely critical because they're giving you the objective view. And most of I mean, if you have a mentor, it's someone that's already where you want to be. So how would you, in other words, like Arif, like what you're doing right now, if you want to get to another level, you need to surround yourself with some people that are doing 10 times or 100 times, because when you see and you hear their mindset, you talk to them, you will learn, I mean, nugget after nugget after nugget of real wisdom to help you move on to the next level. But I think mentors are absolutely essential to growth.
Well, I really would love to thank you for this opportunity. Again, this was a benchmark on how founders think, the mindset of founders who want to scale their business. We have a lot of real estate friends here and in real life and on social media, but the nuggets that Bob just shared with you applies across the board. He doesn't deal with only one area of life. As he said, you earn it, you invest it. What was the saying again, Bob, about the 3 things you do with money? Earn it, invest it, grow it.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, you have to make it, you have to save it, and you have to multiply it. Right. So most people, they go to work. I mean, the saving part is hard. People are earning a normal living, but you can't really get wealthy off of a paycheck. Right. You need to
Mm.
invest the money so that you can multiply it.
Well, that's the end of this program, and I really appreciate your time, sir. I'm gonna stop recording here. I love to hear from Bob, and anybody who has any questions for me, any of the people in the room or Bob, make sure you contact us. We're creating
Yeah,
this
please.
community
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
help
Please don't
our
hesitate to reach out. I'd be more than happy to talk to anyone one-on-one. But yeah, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you guys. I mean, I love you guys because I love you. You really you're here for a reason. And I love that.
I really appreciate it, Bob. I am committed to taking your mentorship and taking my life, my legacy to another level. I really appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
You guys have a great day, and thanks again.